Hey everyone, I'm Asia Dang. Thank you so much for joining me on my channel. Today, again, we're talking about what to do with your money. Specifically, how to balance saving, paying off debt, and investing. How to do that. So depending on who you listen to, a lot can be said. There can be a lot of opinions about what you need to do. Do you pay off your debt first before investing? Do you invest as much as you can now because time is on your side? But the one thing almost everyone can agree on is the very first step that you have to do is to build your emergency funds, to start saving. What is an emergency fund? I feel like if you watch my channel at all, you should know how to answer this question by now. An emergency fund is a savings account that you have, that you put aside in case an emergency comes about, in case you lose your job, in case you have a medical emergency, in case your car breaks down or your AC breaks down and you need to buy a new AC. Those are emergencies, okay? That's the very first thing that you need to do on your financial health journey, is to build up your emergency fund. Now, the question is if you still have to pay off debt, how much of that initial emergency fund that you should build. Okay, so what would happen is you would build up a baby emergency fund, pay off debt, invest, or whatever. We'll talk about what's in between. And then after you pay off your debt, then build up your full emergency fund. But the question that you need to decide is how much you want your baby emergency fund to be initially. There's a lot of people that recommend $1,000. That's all you need for your initial baby emergency fund. But my initial emergency fund was $5,000 because it's been my experience with my dogs is that in an emergency, like if one of them has to have surgery, $5,000 is what it's going to cost. Here's the trick. The trick with your initial emergency fund is to figure out a number that, one, you're comfortable with, and two, that you can build up as quickly as possible. So I think that's why people like to say you need to have $1,000 in your emergency fund, because that's a number that people can build up fairly quickly within a couple months. If you think, yes, $1,000 is perfect, I can feel comfortable being covered in an emergency with $1,000 while I pay off my debt and all that stuff, that's perfect for me. If that works for you, amazing. For me, I wasn't really comfortable with that just because of my own personal experiences, and because I'm in a fairly volatile industry where I don't get paid consistently, so I wanted to have more. And I was able to save up my $5,000 fairly quickly. Again, this is your initial emergency fund, something to just hold you over until you pay off your debt and all that stuff. I don't want you spending a year building up your initial emergency fund. So figure out a number that you're comfortable with and a number that you're able to save up fairly quickly. Then we kind of get into this conversation of debts to pay. So everyone agrees initial emergency fund needs to happen first, and then everyone agrees after your initial emergency fund is built, then it's time to start tackling debt. But what debt you tackle, again, is determined by who you talk to. Now for me, this is what I did. I did my initial emergency fund, and then I paid off my debts, smallest to largest. And that's all I did. During this time, I didn't invest. I didn't do anything else. I threw all of my money towards my debt. I had so much debt, again, $200,000 of personal and student loan debt, that I just wanted it to be done. To me, it didn't matter if it was a private or federal loan. It didn't matter what type of interest rate that it had. I paid off my debt smallest. So I had a small credit card debt of $1,000. I paid that off. And then I had my car. That was about $7,000. I paid that off next. And then I paid off my undergrad student loan. And then I paid off my graduate student loan, which was about $150,000. And the reason why that method worked for me is because I'm someone that needs to win. I need to feel that feeling of success. So being able to pay off my debts smallest first gave me that win, gave me that high that I needed to continue down the path of debt payment. But other people recommend paying off debt with the highest interest rate first, regardless of how much money you actually owe. For me, paying off my debts smallest to largest helped. For others, maybe you're more intense, maybe you view interest rate to be more important and that's what you like to tackle first. So you just need to figure out what works best for you. But regardless, having less debt in your pocket will allow you to throw as much money as you can post-debt to investments. But I did see someone who I follow on Instagram say that she recommends investing while paying off debt because when you invest, time is on your side. So if you throw money into investments while paying off debt, you'll have more time for that investment to grow. For me, that's just too stressful. That was just way too stressful. I was already stressed enough being in debt, in large debt. So I decided to very clearly focus on paying off my debt first and then worry about investments later. And it's worked out for me. I don't regret that decision. But if you're someone who's really worried about, retirement or whatever, that is also a method. Again, I can't speak to that method because that's not what I did, but there are people that will say, pay off your high interest rate debts first. Once you do that, start contributing to investment. And then while you're doing that, pay off your low interest rate debts next. A lot of options for you. You know what I did, you know why I did it. So I just wanted to put out, various options for you so you can see what might work best for you. I recommend what I did because I just think it's the easiest and most straightforward path towards financial freedom, but you might see it differently and that's totally okay. So now we're in step 3, which is step 1 is your baby emergency fund. Step 2 is to pay off debt in whatever form that means to you. And step 3 is to fully fund your baby emergency fund. And then after you do that, then you can go full force into investing. So the cool thing is at this point you've saved, you've paid off debt. So now you have a ton of wiggle room in your budget to invest. Invest in retirement, invest in funds for a wedding or a home, for your kids, all of that. I like how I said kids but pointed to my dogs. Now, what really got me confused when I first started this whole journey is people normally say you want to save for retirement, right? So I thought that meant I just put it in a savings fund and just leave it there. But what you're really doing is you're investing in your retirement fund. So it's a really small word, but mentally for me, I did not understand what it meant until I started doing it myself. Time is on your side and retirement is not cheap. Like if you want to retire someplace, I would love to go back home to Hawaii. I would love to do that. But that's not cheap. Hawaii ain't cheap. Or I know people just want, my dad really just wants to golf all day. And my mom actually, they both just want to golf all day in retirement. And my mom wants to get a house in Palm Springs so she can just go to the golf course whenever. But that stuff is not cheap. In terms of investing, retirement goals should be your number one thing. Time is on your side, so the earlier you start your investing, the better, which is why some people, again, come circling around because I'm just trying to make sure everyone fully understands their options here, is that's why some people pay off their high interest rate debts first and then put money towards retirement and then pay their I'm doing this, trying to have you visualize this, and then pay their low interest debts next while still contributing towards investing in retirement because they know that time is on their side. The more time it takes, the more time they have to allow their money to grow, the better. Again, that's not what I did because I'm very one-track minded. Doing too many things at once kind of gives me anxiety, but That is what people do, and that is the reason why people do that. This is not a video about where to put your home down payment. This is not a video about investments, so that will come later. I know you guys keep on asking for it. I'm getting there. Right now, I'm just setting this, like planting the seeds about what you need to do first before you start doing this kind of stuff, okay? So that's the video. I hope this clarified things instead of making things more confusing. I feel like I may have given you too many options to choose from. Personally, I built up my baby emergency fund, which was $5,000, because that is what I felt comfortable with, and I was able to do that within, I think, 2 to 3 months. After that, paid off my debt, smallest to largest, paid it all off. That's all I did. After that, I fully funded my emergency fund to 6 months, which is now $35,000. And now that I am debt-free, now that I have a fully funded emergency fund, any extra money I have is tossed to investments, period. That investment means retirement. That investment means home down payment and other fun goodies that I want to plan for the rest of my life. But that is how I did. Again, throughout this video, you've seen that there are other options, but you need to figure out what's right for you. And also, if you're doing it one way and realize that you want to try to do it another way, you can do that too. It's your money. Do what makes you feel comfortable. That's the one thing that I've realized on my financial freedom journey, is that the best way to figure out your finances is to do what makes you feel comfortable. So I do it one way, but if you're not totally digging that, that's your prerogative, and you can try out different ways as you please. I trust you to make the right decision to what feels best for you. I'm Dang. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next video. Bye.